How to set up a company in Dubai in 2026. This video will be the ultimate guide for you in order to understand how to set up a business in Dubai. I will answer commonly asked questions like what are the costs, should I go for Freezone or Mainland, how to open a bank account, and what will be the total cost for the setup. So let's get right into it. First of all, there are multiple types of entities in the UAE, including Dubai. The main two are Freezone companies and Mainland companies. The key difference is quite simple. A Mainland company is used for doing business in the UAE itself, including Dubai, that is physical or requires physical presence. Like for instance, a coffee shop, a construction company, or a handyman, whatever the case may be. If you're actually present in the UAE and you're serving UAE customers, then you need a Mainland company. A Freezone company is a company established in a free zone. Currently, there are over 30 different free zones in the UAE. Many of them are also in Dubai. And the free zones are actually special economic zones with different rules. And different free zones have different licenses for different activities. So be careful if you go for a free zone company, but we'll get into it later. So first and foremost, you have to ask yourself the question, are you doing business in the UAE? Yes or no? And then you can easily decide if you have to go for a free zone company or a Mainland company. Generally, I would try to go for a free zone company if it's possible because it's a lot cheaper because you don't need an office. For a Mainland company, you actually need a physical office, and that actually requires proof in form of an HRE certificate, which basically proves that you're renting a physical office space. A Freezone company usually comes directly with a virtual address, which makes it much cheaper because you don't need to rent a physical space. And beyond that, it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot faster in the setup. So whenever you can, try to go for free zone companies. And many free zones nowadays actually have a lot more licenses and activities that allow limited business activity in the UAE. For instance, you have an online marketing agency, a design agency, you're a consultant, whatever the case may be, you can still do business in the UAE. You can still do B2B business, but if you're selling products or services to end customers like B2C, then you should definitely go for a Mainland company. So that's the first and most important part to check if you need a free zone company or Mainland company, and in case, get informed properly or request a consultation from a professional. Since most expats go for a free zone company, I will go more into detail about the free zone company. So basically, when you want to go set up a free zone company, you have to select the free zone you want to go with. There are many different free zones, over 30. Some of them are in Dubai, some of them are outside of Dubai, like other Emirates like Ajman or Sharjah, Ras Al Khaimah, to mention a few. But I would generally advise, if you're trying to move to Dubai and establish a business there, then obviously go for a Dubai free zone. So there are many free zones in Dubai, and the differences are quite significant because different free zones have different purposes, different licenses that are intended for different business activities. For instance, we have Jebel Ali, which is the commonly known trading hub in Dubai, or actually in the UAE. It's one of the biggest trading ports in the world where a lot of trading happens, and therefore this free zone is very specifically designed for trading activities. It also has warehouse infrastructure, which a lot of other free zones do not have. Or to give you another example, the IFC is the Dubai International Financial Center, which basically governs all the banks and other financial institutions. So this is very much catered towards financial institutions and businesses. And there are other free zones as well, like Dubai Silicon Oasis or Mainland free zones, that are very popular because they have a lot of different licenses and they offer general license. So those two are not very specialized. They offer a broad selection of activities. So that's why they are also very popular. But in certain instances, you have to go with specialized free zones like the IFC or Jebel Ali. So those are the first two things you have to keep in mind, free zone or Mainland. And then if you go for a free zone, make sure to select the right free zone in order to be able to do the business itself, because you can't switch later. You can't switch free zones and you can't switch from a free zone to a Mainland company. So you have to make your mind up in the first place. Otherwise, you're wasting a lot of time and money. The next step would be, after your company is established, it usually takes around 3 to 5 business days, depending on the free zones and how fast you actually respond, because the free zones sometimes need extra information from you, but usually it can be done within a week. The next step would be a bank account opening. So this is a very important part, so a lot of people mess this up. So basically, if you want to have full banking access in the UAE, you have to have an Emirates ID and a residence visa. Without that, banking options are very limited. Currently, there's only one bank that really allows foreigners with companies in Dubai with without the Emirates ID to open bank accounts. It's called ENBD, Emirates National Bank of Dubai, and this bank allows, but very limited, to open bank accounts for foreigners with UAE companies like Freezones or Mainland companies without the actual Emirates ID and residence visa. So for the most part, you actually need to enter the UAE and actually do the full process of the residence visa and the Emirates ID. So let's cover that quickly. So after the company formation, you will get an eVisa. That's an eVisa for employment. So basically you use that visa to enter the UAE. Very important to actually use that visa. Many people travel to the UAE claiming they can do it with their tourist visa, which is fine if you're coming here as a tourist. But if you want to do the whole process properly, you have to go with the eVisa, present the eVisa at the DXB airport, if you use the DXB airport, and present it at the passport control. After that, this is a very important step. If you miss that step, you have to do a status change, which costs time and money and will set you back. So after you enter the UAE, on the first day, you can actually do your medical test. The medical test is quite simple. It only takes about 30 minutes with waiting time. This will include your blood test and a quick x-ray of your lung, just making sure you don't have any highly infectious diseases like polio or HIV, the two most common ones that are tested. Usually people pass it, and the result will be there within a couple of hours. Then on the same day or possibly on the next day, you fill out your Emirates ID application, and with the Emirates ID application, which is a quick form, you go to do the biometrics. Biometrics can be done at multiple institutions in Dubai, just like the medical test, and they will take your fingerprints that are then assigned and saved on your Emirates ID. So this whole process takes around 2 to 3 days, and then the actual residence visa is issued. During this couple of days in Dubai, you cannot leave the UAE because your visa is under process. They will not allow you to leave, but it only takes a couple of days, and if properly organized, usually only 2 to 3 days. Then you will get your residence visa in form of a PDF. It's now digital, and you will also find it in your app. There's a special ICP app for that. I will link it in the video down. But this is how you access your residence visa. And a couple of days later, you will receive your physical Emirates ID card. These steps are absolutely mandatory if you want to have full access to the UAE banking system. If you don't want to have that, then you have very limited offshore banking options, mostly fintech banks like Currency or Free as Money, but those are, first of all, fintech banks, and second of all, there's not a lot of them out there that allow UAE banking. And I would highly recommend you to go with a physical bank in the UAE because obviously you can walk in, you have better customer support, and second of all, if you have a high transaction volume and your account gets flagged, you can easily sort it out, while with a fintech, many people know that, with Revolut or Wise or whatever, they simply close your account, you have no option, and you basically get no customer support at all, and you can't do anything about it. So you're trying to avoid that. So basically, after you receive your Emirates ID, you can download banking apps like Vio, ENBD, Mashreq, FAB, or other local banks that we work together with, and bank account there. Make sure to have all your documents ready from the company formation, as well as your physical Emirates ID, because you actually need to scan it with the app, as well as the residence visa, the establishment cards, and other important documents. That will make the process a lot easier because the bank will ask obviously a lot of questions if you don't provide them with documents, so better have them ready in first place and then submit them all online via the app. If you have trouble, you can contact us. We have direct contacts in every major bank in the UAE. And after your bank account is set up, you're ready. Not yet, because you have to comply with local tax laws, and that includes the corporate tax registration, which is very important. It has to be done within 90 days after company formation is done. Can be done online. It's quite tricky if you haven't done it before, so you might as well go to an accountant. We obviously help our clients with that as well, as long as with accounting. The first step would be complete the corporate tax registration in order to receive your corporate tax registration number for your business. That has to be done within 90 days. Otherwise, the FTA will fine you around 10,000 dirham, which should be avoided because it's a lot of money. After that, you should consult a local agent that does bookkeeping and accounting for you, because the UAE also has requirements for bookkeeping and accounting. This has been there for a couple of years now. So basically, after you complete a full tax year, the following year until the 30th of September, you have to submit your annual report and upload it to the FTA in order to fulfill all the requirements. As long as with quarterly VAT filing, if you qualify for VAT, which is only the case if you have more than 375,000 taxable income in the UAE, that requires VAT. If you do business outside the UAE, you don't require that, so you can file for a VAT exempt. I just give you that information. And that leads me to the next point, and that is taxes in the UAE. The UAE is very tax friendly, but it's not completely tax free. And I'll talk about a couple of very important taxes. First of all, personal income tax is 0. So at a personal level, everybody is taxed at 0%. So that's very easy. It doesn't matter if you have income, rental income, crypto, or whatever the case may be. Personal income is taxed tax-free. If you have a company, you might have to pay taxes. You definitely have to file for the tax report. Even if your revenue is zero and you're just using the company for visa reasons, you still have to file a tax report. That's very important. In most cases, and it depends on your revenue, you don't even have to pay taxes. So basically, there's a rule in place. It's still going on. Below 3 million dirham, which is around $800,000, you don't have to pay taxes at all. It's called small business relief. So if you're below that, congratulations, you don't have to pay taxes at all. Even if your profit is like 5, 6, 700,000 US dollars, you don't have to pay taxes because you're below the 3 million dirham. Beyond that, you qualify actually for tax, but you still have a tax threshold of around $100,000, which is not going to be taxed. And beyond that, you can pay yourself a salary that is not taxed at all. And that will obviously decrease your company's profits. It depends on case by case how much we're going to push it, but usually 10, 15, 20,000 per month is not an issue. So we're talking about 200, 250,000 per year that can be paid out tax-free as a salary for the general manager. In some cases, we can raise it as well. It has to meet some industry standards, so it can't be exactly your profit of the company if it's going to be in the millions. So obviously be aware of that. So basically, we evaluate it case by case. So we look at each case individually and see how much we can push the salary. And obviously, other business expenses will decrease the company's profit as well. So realistically, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of tax-free money that lands in your own pocket. I also want to mention that some activities in free zones are called qualified activities, and those qualify for a tax exempt no matter the revenue. Those are some very special activities like freight, trading activities like oil trading, precious metals, and all the other things. I will put a list on the screen so you can look at them. So in some cases, you're completely tax-free beyond 3 million dirham. So that's nice to have as well. So what's the whole timeline of setting up a company and be fully ready to do business? Usually it takes around 2 weeks. So the first week is going to be this company setup, can be done remotely in case of a free zone company. The whole process usually takes 2 weeks for free zone company, maybe 3 weeks for a mainland company. Free zones are a bit quicker. So 1 week for the company formation and another week for entering Dubai, getting your Emirates ID, your residency visa, and maybe a couple of days for banking as well, depending on how fast the banks are. Sometimes they're faster, sometimes they're slower, but usually around 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, you can get fully ready in the UAE to do business. And that's quite fast in my opinion, including the residency visa and everything. So what are the costs? The costs are quite different, obviously, from a mainland company to a free zone company. A free zone company itself also depends on the free zone, but the company itself without anything usually sets you back around $4,000 depending on the free zone. Some outside of Dubai might be able to do it a bit cheaper, like Ras Al Khaimah or Ajman. Within Dubai, they're usually a bit more expensive, but I would say around 4,000. If you want to have a visa as well, that will take another 2,000 to 3,000 on top of that, because the company needs an establishment card and a visa slot as well. Both of them costs money, and then you obviously need to do the Emirates ID, the biometrics. So it will all add up to around $6,000. Give or take, if you do a free zone company setup in Dubai with bank accounts, Emirates ID, residence visa, and everything included. For mainland company, it's usually more than double that, because you also need to rent a physical office space, which in the cheapest case will set you back around $2,000 to $3,000 per year, and the licenses are more expensive. So I would look beyond $12,000 for a complete setup for a mainland company. And again, like I said, everything can be done efficiently within 2 to 3 weeks. So those are the most important aspects when it comes to setting up a company in the UAE. Some commonly asked questions. If you have more questions beyond that, you can always ask me in the comments down below, or book directly a consultation with me. I'll look forward to help you directly set up your business in the UAE, fully compliant with the local laws as well as international tax laws, so you can have a very tax-friendly setup in the UAE for yourself and for your company. Looking forward to speaking to you, and see you in the next video.